The first sound was not a scream, it was a knocking. 3 deliberate, echoing raps that rattled the front door of the Langford house just past midnight. Claire Langford froze in her bed. The sound came again, hollow against the warped wood, as if someone or something was trying not to be heard, but couldn't resist announcing itself. Her husband, Peter, stirred beside her, muttering something half asleep, but didn't wake fully. Claire held her breath. She knew that sound. They both did. It had been 10 years since anyone dared knock at that door after dark. The house, an aging Victorian structure perched at the edge of Black Hollow Woods, had a reputation. Not just the creaking, mold-scented kind that neighbors whispered about when lights flickered, but a real, carved-in-flesh kind of reputation. 5 people had gone missing from that house before the Langfords bought it for a fraction of its worth. The realtor had sworn the stories were town gossip, rumors meant to keep property values low. Claire hadn't believed him. She'd seen the way the man's hands shook when he held the contract, the way his eyes lingered too long on the cellar door. Now, in the suffocating quiet of midnight, the knocking came again, 3 sharp raps. Then silence. Claire's heart hammered so violently she felt it might burst from her chest. She swallowed, the taste of old dust and copper in her mouth, and reached for Peter's arm. "Peter," she whispered, shaking him. He groaned. "What?" "Someone's at the door." His eyes cracked open, unfocused. "At what time is it?" "Midnight." That word carried weight between them. Midnight. The exact time every disappearance had been recorded in police files. Peter pushed himself up, rubbing his face. "It's probably some damn kids. You know how this town is. They think it's..." "Funny." Claire shook her head. "It's not kids. Not this late." They sat in silence, listening. The wind pressed against the house, whistling through cracks in the warped frames. The smell of mildew seeped in, thick and sour. Somewhere, deep in the walls, water dripped, plunk, plunk, plunk. Then it came again. But not from the front door this time. 3 knocks, slow, deliberate, on the bedroom wall. Claire's hand shot to her mouth to stifle a scream. Peter went rigid, eyes wide. They sat in the dark, their breaths shallow, waiting for something else. The silence was worse than the sound, thick, unnatural, buzzing like static against the skin. Peter finally whispered, "Stay here." "Don't you dare!" But he was already moving, pulling on jeans and grabbing the baseball bat from the closet. The floorboards moaned under his weight as he made his way to the hall. Claire sat frozen in bed, her fingernails digging crescents into her palms. Her eyes stayed locked on the wall. It was an old house, yes, with hollow walls and echoing pipes, but no pipe knocked like that. No pipe kept rhythm. The minutes stretched. She heard Peter descending the stairs, each creak further away. The front door opened with a long groan. Wind rushed inside. Then, nothing. No footsteps returning. No voice calling up to reassure her. Just silence. Claire's chest tightened. She slipped from the bed, her bare feet sinking into the cold rug. Every instinct screamed to lock herself in the room to stay hidden, but another, sharper instinct told her she couldn't let Peter vanish into that silence. She crept down the hallway, each step making the floor whisper beneath her weight. The air smelled wrong, like earth after heavy rain, mixed with something metallic. Her throat tightened. She descended the stairs slowly, hand gripping the railing until splinters dug into her skin. At the bottom, the front door gaped open, swinging slightly in the breeze. The night outside was unnaturally still. No crickets, no rustle of trees. Just a vast, suffocating hush. "Peter?" Her voice cracked. The bat leaned abandoned against the wall. Claire stepped onto the porch, the night air biting her skin. The woods loomed beyond the clearing, their branches black veins against a starless sky. A faint mist curled at their roots. "Peter!" She tried again, louder this time. No answer. But she heard something else, faint, low, almost like whispering. It came from the tree line where the mist was thickest, a cadence, like a chant in a language she didn't know. Her stomach turned. Then, between the trees, she saw him. Peter stood motionless, barefoot in the grass, His head tilted sharply to one side as though straining to hear. His body looked slack, puppet-like, arms hanging loose at his sides. "Peter." She stumbled toward him. The grass was wet, soaking her feet. The smell of iron thickened. He didn't move, didn't even blink. Claire grabbed his arm and shook him. His skin was icy, damp with dew. "Peter, please." At last, his eyes shifted to her. But they weren't Peter's eyes anymore. They were glassy, unfocused, like a reflection in dark water. His lips parted. When he spoke, the voice wasn't his. It was layered, as though dozens of mouths whispered through him at once. "They've been waiting for you." Claire stumbled back, bile rising in her throat. What are you talking about?" Peter's head jerked unnaturally, like a marionette pulled too hard. His jaw cracked audibly. His pupils dilated until his eyes were swallowed in black. "They said you would come." The whispering in the woods grew louder, circling, pressing in. Claire backed toward the house, pulse hammering, dragging Peter's arm despite his limp resistance. But as she reached the porch, she froze. On the door, freshly carved into the wood, were 3 hollow circles, perfect, dark, and deep, as if burned into the grain. The whispering surged. The night seemed to close in, suffocating, alive, and Claire realized the knocking had never come from outside. It had come from the walls. The moment Claire slammed the front door shut, the house seemed to breathe around her. The hinges screamed, the wood shuddered, and the carved circles on the door glowed faintly in the dark. She pressed her back against it, heart pounding so violently she thought her ribs might snap. Peter stood in the living room where she had dragged him, his body stiff, his eyes blank with that unnatural black sheen. He hadn't fought her. He hadn't done anything at all, just moved like a weightless thing, obedient only because she pulled. Now he stood in the gloom like a mannequin left behind in a store, his head tilted, listening. Always listening. "Peter, please," Claire whispered, voice shaking. "Say something. It's me." For the smallest instant, something flickered behind his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Hope. She rushed forward, clutching his face in her trembling hands. His skin was so cold it burned her palms. "Fight it. Whatever this is, fight it." His lips parted, a tremor in his jaw. And then the voices came again, dozens, maybe hundreds of whispers pouring from his throat like smoke. "They know you. They marked you. You let them in." Claire recoiled, her stomach twisting. The voices weren't just sounds, they were textures, gravel against her skin, nails dragged across glass, the breath of strangers in her ear. She pressed her palms over her ears, but it didn't help. They vibrated inside her bones. "Get out of him!" she screamed, her own voice shrill, unrecognizable. Peter's body lurched forward. Not an attack, not exactly. More like a marionette dragged forward by invisible strings. His head twitched, side to side. His arm jerked out, pointing toward the far wall of the living room. Claire's eyes followed. At first, she saw nothing, just wallpaper peeling in the damp. Then, as her breath fogged the air, she noticed the bulge. The wall itself seemed to ripple, as though something pushed from behind it, straining to break through. The wallpaper tore down the center. A crack split the plaster, releasing a gust of damp, rot-scented air. Claire gagged as the smell of earth, and something fouler, something sweet like rotting fruit, spilled out. From the fissure, faint whispers leaked, matching the cadence in Peter's throat. "No." Claire staggered back, colliding with the coffee table. "No, this isn't real." The crack widened. She swore she saw fingers, long, gray, jointless things, slip through before retracting into the dark. The wall pulsed like diseased flesh. Peter's voice, or rather, their voices, rose. "They are hungry. They are hollow. And you live inside their cage." Claire screamed, grabbed the bat from the floor, and swung with every ounce of strength she had. The bat crashed against the wall, shattering plaster, scattering dust. For a second, silence. The fissure collapsed inward. Dragging him across the floor was agony. Every muscle screamed. She managed to pull him to the cellar door, the one the realtor had hesitated over, the one neighbors whispered about. It was the only exit left. The back door was bolted shut from the outside. The windows wouldn't budge. She'd tested them years ago. The cellar, though, it had an old storm door that opened into the yard. If she could just get there. She fumbled with the latch. The iron handle was slick with condensation as though sweating. The smell of earth wafted up, stronger now, choking her. She tugged the door open. Stairs descended into black. A wet black, the kind that swallowed light. "God help me," she whispered, and began dragging Peter down. The wood groaned beneath them. The air was thick, almost viscous, clinging to her skin. Each step descended deeper into a silence that felt alive. Halfway down, Peter's eyes snapped open. Claire gasped, relief flooding her. "Peter? It's me. We're leaving." But his expression wasn't Peter. His mouth curled in a grin that was not his grin. His voice was the chorus again. "You go where we want you to go." His hand shot up, seizing her wrist with inhuman strength. Claire screamed, tried to wrench free, but his grip was iron. Her bones ached under the pressure. "Peter, stop, please." For a split second, his true eyes flickered through. The man she loved. His grip slackened. His lips trembled. "Run," he whispered. Then he convulsed, collapsing into her arms again. Claire sobbed, shaking. She had no choice. She dragged him the rest of the way down, forcing her body past its limit. At the bottom, her bare feet met cold stone. The cellar spread, wide, its ceiling low, its air unbreathable with mold and rot. But what froze her wasn't the smell. It was the carvings. Every wall was covered in the same 3 hollow circles, etched deep into the stone. Hundreds of them, thousands, overlapping, interwoven, endless. And in the center of the cellar, the earth sank into a pit. A round, gaping pit that pulsed faintly as though breathing. From its depths, the whispers roared. Claire staggered back, clutching Peter. Her knees nearly gave way. She stared into the pit, where something shifted. Not light, not shadow. Something in between. Faces. Empty faces, without eyes or mouths, rising in the dark soil, writhing. The hollow ones. They whispered in unison, louder now, their words cutting through her mind like blades. "You are marked. One must stay. One must open the way." Claire shook her head violently. "No, you can't have him. You can't have either of us." The pit pulsed. The cellar shook. Dust rained from the beams above. Peter stirred. His face twisted in pain. "They've chosen," the whisper said. "He is the vessel. You are the hand. Open the way." Claire clutched him tighter, her tears dripping onto his shirt. "No, no, I won't." The ground beneath her split with a sharp crack. A jagged line raced across the stone, splitting the carvings in two. The house groaned above, its foundation trembling. The whispers screamed. Dozens of voices collapsing into one. And from the pit, something began to rise. Something vast, something hungry. The pit widened as though the earth itself yawned open, its edges crumbling inward, pulling stone and soil into the blackness. Claire staggered back, choking on the stench of damp decay clutching Peter's limp body against her. The air vibrated with whispers. Thousands of them, each layered upon the next until they weren't whispers at all but a single deafening command. "Open the way." Shapes writhed inside the pit. Not quite human, limbs bent wrong, torsos hollow, faces blank where eyes and mouths should be. They shifted against one another like a tide of bodies, reaching upward, hungry for light. Claire screamed, pressing herself against the cellar wall. "Leave us alone!" The chorus surged through Peter's body. His eyes snapped open, that black sheen consuming them again. He rose stiffly, almost levitating, his head bent back unnaturally, throat open as the voices poured out. "The vessel is ready. The hand must choose." Claire sobbed, shaking her head until her hair whipped her cheeks. "I'm not your hand. I don't belong to you." Peter's mouth split into a grin too wide, too jagged. His voice, or their voice, curled through the cellar like smoke. You already do. You heard the knocking. You answered. The circles carved into the stone walls began to glow, one by one, as though lit from behind. A pale, cold light bled into the cellar, illuminating every crack, every damp stone, every grotesque figure in the pit. Claire's body shook violently. She could feel it inside her now, their pull, a pressure behind her eyes, in her chest, in her very bones, like invisible hands stretching her apart from the inside. No, I won't, she whispered. Peter's body convulsed. His hands stretched toward her, trembling, pleading. And for one raw moment it was his voice, his real voice, that broke through. Claire, run, please, before I'm gone. Her knees buckled. She clutched, him pulling him to her chest. I won't leave you. I can't. The pit roared. A blast of freezing air howled upward, extinguishing the cellar's light. The figures inside surged closer, their faceless heads turning toward her. Choose. Claire's teeth chattered. Uncontrollably. Her skin burned from the cold. She realized then what they meant. One of them must remain, the vessel to house them, the hand to open the way to the living. She was marked. Peter was claimed. One of them had to stay. Her mind fractured under the weight of it. She thought of their life before this house, their small, ordinary happiness. Coffee in the mornings, dumb jokes in the kitchen, Peter falling asleep on the couch with the TV too loud. She thought of the realtor's trembling hands, the whispers she ignored, the way the walls always seemed to listen. This was her fault. She had brought them here. Tears scalded her cheeks. Take me, not him, please, take me instead. The voices paused. The pit stilled, as though considering. Peter convulsed, his voice ragged, human again for a flicker of a second. No, you don't know what they'll do. Claire pressed her forehead to his. I can't lose you. The whispers returned, softer now, almost tender. The hand offers itself. The vessel remains. Peter's body was yanked violently from her grip. He screamed, his voice shredded as the hollow ones dragged him toward the pit's edge. Claire shrieked, clawing at his arm, but an unseen force ripped them apart. The faceless figures surged upward, enveloping him. His scream echoed through the cellar, through her skull, tearing her apart inside. His face disappeared beneath their shifting bodies. And then, silence. The pit closed. The carvings on the walls dimmed to nothing. Peter was gone. Claire collapsed to the ground, sobbing so hard her body shook with it. The silence pressed against her ears until she thought she would go mad. She screamed into the darkness, begging them to give him back, her voice raw and broken. But no answer came. Instead, something else stirred inside her. A warmth, a hum beneath her skin, a pressure in her skull. When she opened her eyes, she saw the carvings faintly glowing again, not in the walls this time, but in her hands. 3 perfect hollow circles burned into her palms, etched into flesh as though branded. Her stomach dropped. She staggered back, holding her hands in the dim light. They glowed faintly, pulsing with her heartbeat. She heard the whispers again, not outside, not from the pit, but inside her head. You are the hand. You will open the way. Claire fell to her knees, retching until nothing but bile spilled from her throat. She clawed at her palms, desperate to tear the marks away, but the skin didn't bleed. The circles only glowed brighter, sinking deeper. She stumbled blindly up the cellar stairs, her body shaking. Every step felt wrong, as though the house itself guided her upward. When she burst into the living room, the air smelled of iron and earth. The front door stood wide open, and outside, the woods waited. Branches twisted toward her like reaching fingers. Mist curled across the clearing, thick and unnatural. Somewhere deep inside, the whispers urged her forward. One must open the way. Her legs carried her despite herself. Each step sank into the wet grass, soaking her feet, pulling her closer to the black tree line. She tried to resist, tried to turn back, but her body wouldn't obey. She was only a passenger now. At the edge of the woods, she stopped. Her breath shook violently in the freezing mist. For a brief, desperate moment, she prayed. Not to God, not to anyone specific, just to someone, anyone who could hear her. "Please," she whispered, "don't let me do this." The answer came in Peter's voice, soft, broken, inside her head. "Claire," her chest seized. "Peter?" For one heartbeat she thought it was him, that somehow he had returned, but the voice twisted, layered, splitting into many. "They are waiting." And Claire's body stepped into the woods. The Langford house still stands at the edge of Black Hollow Woods, empty, though no realtor dares list it again. Those who walk past at night swear they hear knocking from the walls. Some say they see a woman at the window, her hands pressed against the glass, her eyes black, her palms glowing with 3 hollow circles. And from the woods behind the house, if the night is silent enough, a whisper carries on the mist. Not one voice, thousands, calling your name.